Welcome to Mental Attire, the Meaning Series. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the example you're setting. I am Amy.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Cleopatra.
I'm Isaiah.
So, to kick this off, the example we set. Do you think we have much influence as a human being?
Well, I think that actually really setting an example every moment of the day for whoever is around you or whoever that you're communicating with or anything, you're continuously setting an example. You're setting an example for yourself, actually, but then everyone around you, whether you are running errands or you're having a meeting, whether that's in person or virtual or anything like that, you're always setting an example, and that can be how you're carrying yourself, how you're speaking, how you're treating others. I mean, it's kind of endless. How you're presenting yourself. This is mental attire, so we talk about first what are you mentally wearing and then what are you physically wearing. So I feel like realistically we're making impressions on people all the time, 24/7. It's kind of you don't really shut it off. You can be more so you're not comparing yourself, but you're still making impressions on people all the time if you actually think about it.
Yeah, whether you realize it or not, people are watching. Your friends, your coworkers, your family, your peers. So your choices, your attitudes, and your words, they set an example, and they set also a tone that others will follow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think when you brought up the example we're setting for ourselves, look at how much we focus on ourselves. I don't mean that in a negative way, but how much we beat ourselves up. So we're trying to set an example, and we just do this automatically. We don't even know. We're constantly critiquing ourselves. We're constantly, looking at ourselves, especially when you're just doing something like a task or work or this or that, and you're not around anybody else. I mean, it's just, what do we spend our time thinking? Mm-hmm. But being the example, do we really understand how much influence we have, and that we actually don't even know a lot of the people that we're influencing or being the example for? Because if we're out and about or this or that, or if somebody sees one of our videos or reads something about us or this or that, we may or may not ever know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just physical. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, just like our physical clothing, it reflects style. Your mental clothing reflects your character. And so are you clothing yourself in patience and kindness and integrity, or more so negativity or pride or selfishness? I think that's really important to remember. Your physical clothing, yes, it reflects your style, but your mental reflects your character. And so what are people seeing in your character? Are they seeing the fruits of the Spirit, or are they not?
Mm-hmm. And I think that whatever's going on in your mind, so your mental clothing, basically your mental attire, is reflected in your physical clothing too. So we've talked about this in other videos. I think actually if you go all the way back to the beginning of this series, we kind of talk about it a little more. But whatever thoughts we're thinking, or even whatever patterns we're following in our life, so that starts mentally and then it goes into physical choices, that kind of thing. It reflects, like you're saying, in the outward appearance of you. So whatever you're choosing to wear, that kind of thing. If you're not mentally clothing yourself with the fruits of the Spirit, like you were saying, then it's probably going to come across as carelessness in your physical appearance too. And we've also talked about, it's not about expensive clothing or that you have to dress certain ways, but it's also there are different impressions that you're going to give off if you're not taking the time to mentally check in with your mental health first, and then see how it's reflecting in your physical appearance, and even how you carry yourself too. It's not only about clothing, it's how are you talking to others, how are you Are you trying to like hunch and make yourself smaller, or are you willing to like let God work through you? And I don't want to say walk around proudly, because that's not what we're getting at here, but like walk around knowing that God is working through you, and so you carry yourself confidently. In the Bible, it repeatedly tells you to be bold and courageous, and so it comes back to taking kind of like an inventory of your thoughts, what you're thinking, how you're talking to yourself, like Mom was saying, and then see how it translates into your physical appearance and mannerisms.
And I feel like, as far as setting an example and also first impressions, like when you meet someone, let's say you're meeting with a prospect for the first time in person, and you show up in sweatpants and a baggy hoodie, that's likely not going to set a very good first example. So I feel like, just to tie in with what you guys were saying, what's going on on the inside does reflect on the external. And I know, of course, there's plenty of people that I guess can dress nice, and you've still got some turmoil going on the inside, but however you dress also will affect the other way. Like if you show up to your meeting in a suit, it's going to affect you totally different, your mindset just naturally. Even if you don't typically wear one, it'll make you feel, more responsible, more put together, up and everything. So I feel like clothing is a big thing there, even just out in public.
Well, I think it's kind of like there's more intentionality behind certain clothing choices, like we've talked about before, is like it's not about being fancy, but if you're actually putting intention into it and taking the time, even like if it's 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, it's not about like taking hours long to decide what you're going to wear or to fix your hair or whatever it is. But if you're putting a little bit more intention into it versus just choosing like the comfiest thing or the most convenient thing. And I'm not saying we don't all have days where sometimes if you're not, there's exceptions to it, but if you're consistently showing up for yourself to start with, and then it's going to translate into other people, and actually you're showing up for God too when you're putting more intention into it, because He made us to be in His image. And so if we're not taking care of our bodies and our temples and clothing them well and having good thoughts and like that kind of thing, then it's really not, it's just as unhealthy as like if it's too extreme the other way too. So I think it's kind of the intentionality behind it too, like Isaiah was talking about.
Well, and how we take care of our body, you were talking about our temple and everything, and then our clothing that we wear, there's different physical aspects with that, because are we getting enough sleep? Are we nourishing our body with good foods and hydration with water? And are we moving our body? And then that relays into how we're dressing and how we feel in our clothing and what we think of ourselves in our clothing. And this is not about thinking of ourselves of, do I look good or not? It's, do I even feel very good with myself and my body first, and then our clothing. And sometimes when we do not want to or feel like it, and it's not about necessarily dressing up really fancy, but just sometimes you just want to, I'd really love to wear comfy, cozy clothes, but that that's not the right choice for whatever occasion or event you're going to. But people tend to slack these days, slough off these days. I was calling it about slounging. What was I calling it today? Sloppy and lounging together. Slounging. You feel better, and you are being an example. And you may say, I don't care about being an example. Well, okay, but that will come back. That's going to know that your energy will affect other people, negatively or positively.
It's kind of funny, actually, because I was looking at a magazine this morning, and it was a picture from like 1935 over in Britain, and it was like car racing or whatever. And I mean, it was several men, probably like 6 or 7 men. The guy that was racing the car was there wearing a suit. The guys that are standing around are like wearing suits. I mean, actually they had like dress coats on over it. But like, if you Google I was doing research for something, and I remember it was like a prompt of if you Google a baseball game in America in like the 1920s or 30s, all the men, and again, it's not about being fancy, it's just kind of talking about standards that used to be in place. The men were wearing suits and hats, the ladies are dressed nicely, and some of them were wearing hats, some weren't. But like, oh no, I was going somewhere with that. And now I don't. Oh, I feel like another thing is like with working from home is that it's so easy to, like, you don't have to get dressed in, if you want to say business attire or whatever it is, you don't have to do that because you're just working from home. But I feel like something like I do, or mom does it too, is like in the morning and even into early afternoon, if you pick out an outfit that would be more whatever you want it to be, but just like an intentional outfit, and then you can change and you can do whatever. But like, it's going to affect your productivity differently than if you just show up in the same sweatpants and the same sweatshirt every day, or, you know, like whatever. It's just, it is the mental attire, and I think it's kind of a natural side effect of it too. Kind of like Isaiah was saying, even if it's not something you're used to, once you start doing it, not only will it become a habit or become easier, but it might even start to shift your mental attire too. And like we've talked about before, sometimes you have to start taking those steps without even understanding like where exactly it's leading or anything like that. You just have to be willing to start making those changes, even when you don't feel like it or whatever you would say.
Well, right. It's about being steady. It's about being real. It's not about being perfect, but it's you're at least trying, you're showing up. And I think that consistency, God sees it, your family and your friends will see it, and you ultimately will see it. You know, the example that you're setting in what you wear, or maybe your habits. Yeah, it goes beyond just even clothing, but your habits and whatnot for your mental clarity, for your just, I don't know a way to put that, but if that makes sense, hopefully.
Yeah.
I've got a couple things that I want to get out before I forget them. Playing off of what you were saying, Cleo, about, you know, men in suits, and how back in the day, you know, that's what they wore. I was actually looking up some stats earlier, not for this video, but for a different reason, of like how many men in America wear suits, or I guess I looked up how many young men, and there's the 28% of the male population have never worn a suit in their life, and like I think is it 30%, something like that, don't even own one single suit. And then also like the amount of like what people wear at work, it like showed in like the statistics. And I think on top was something like business casual maybe, but then above business professional was athleisure and athletic. I'm like, okay, there's a problem there. Like I understand, you know, you're working from home and everything, there's that, but like at the workplace, at least wear jeans and like a dress shirt or something. But it was just interesting to see the stats of like athleisure was above business professional. And then also a couple things. A few months ago we were at Chick-fil-A, and I think I just had like khakis on maybe and a polo, and we were all dressed, you know, fairly nicely. And I actually went over to a couple to compliment this guy's watch and ask him what brand it was. And after I asked him that, the lady was like, his wife was like, by the way, you guys are dressed very nicely. And it's really good to see that in younger people, because she's like, I don't even like ever see, you know, people your age dressed that nice. And then one time I was walking through Target and I had a suit on, and this boy, he was like maybe 7 or 8. He's like, hey, I like your outfit. And I'm like, thank you. You know, to have someone that young acknowledge, you know, your fine attire, it's like, wow. That's cool.
And I think we need to encourage that more. I think we need to encourage families and parents, you know, like we said, it's not that it has to be all the time, but it really, to have your children even when they were young. I mean, we did. Isaiah was dressed in a suit, and from very young, to be able to wear one along with, you know, khakis and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it starts them young and it gets them into their mindset. And as we've said, it's not about the cost of the clothing. There's so much reasonable clothing out there, more than there ever used to be, even with dress clothes. And now there's so many that are actually Lululemon, Shields, Fiore. All of these are actually making very comfortable dress clothes that you can wash, even like White House Black Market for females. Even sports suit coats or that kind of stuff for even ladies, and that they're washable, machine washable. And I have to say, there's not enough dry cleaners around. I prefer washable for male and female. But it's just, the other thing that I think we could touch on is 3 of us are not on social media, but and for anybody that is, they really need to be aware that you are setting the example for anything you put out there. And if you think people don't see it, you're wrong. Plumb flat. Anybody, even if you think it's private, it's not private. And so, it's not a free-for-all, even though everybody acts like it. Unleashing this, it's like, be very aware that it can come back at you. It really can.
Live out what you believe. Okay. So say, if we're talking about the example you're setting. So on social media, if you, proclaim Christ and you proclaim to be a Christian, you should not be posting certain things. You shouldn't be wearing certain things. It's just, what would Jesus do? We could go back to that simple question. What would Jesus do? What outfit would he approve of? And when you're putting on something or you're posting something that is glorifying to him, that also gives you a deep sense of purpose and knowing, you're doing the right thing. No, it may not be popular. It may be more humble. It may be more like a way that people don't follow as often. But like we said, choose the highway and do choose those righteous decisions and choose to be an example on social media that is consistent with who you say that you are. I think it's very important.
And if you don't know who you are, your best thing, if you ever question, should I even put this on there? That means don't put it on. Play it safe.
Yeah. Well, and I think that something that it's much more amplified on social media, but we've talked about it's in real life too. You're observing people, you're watching people are observing you. So it's not only social media, but what becomes popular, what becomes trendy. And we've talked about this. I'm not going to go into great detail because you can go back and watch our other videos on it. But someone we know, she was so proud that she had no dresses in her closet. As that's from a female perspective, of course, but it's there's so many it's popular to not be there's different words. There's classy for ladies, there's refined for men, different things that just take a little bit more effort. And it's not about being fancy, like we've said so many times, but it's if you're just doing things, and it can be clothing, it can be so many other things, it's not just clothing, doing it just to be trendy, and you're following the popular examples, you walk around and you see high school age girls, they all dress a certain way. They might have different colors on, but they practically dress the same, And of course, when that's the people they're around, well, you start to kind of just blend in with it. But that's when you have to be willing to stand out for God, as we've said before, stand up for God. And you have to be willing to be different, not in a look at me, I'm so different way, but in a way that is glorifying God and will have positive changes on, again, your family members, your friends, and then even strangers. And it, like Mom said earlier, you might not even know who it affects or who notices or anything like that, and it's not about that. but you're going to have that effect, and God's going to know too. And then you're going to have rewards from that.
Something we have that we talk about a lady, and a little 2-year-old can be a lady. A little 2-year-old boy can be a gentleman. I mean, we need to teach this from birth on up, but we talk about a lady being effervescent, classy, bubbly, joyful, virtuous, elegant, vibrant, and you can include in there a lot of fun. And then we talk about a gentleman being debonair, sprightly, noble, urbane, magnanimous, dashing, gallant, and a lot of fun too. We're not talking about being uppity and none of that. You can be relaxed, you can be calm, you can be peaceful, you can laugh, be silly, giggle, and all of that. But just know that we are all being an example.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the example you set today is the foundation others are going to build on, tomorrow or going on after. So what kind of mental attire, but also, your outward attire, do you want others to remember? What do you want them to carry on and to carry forward? You think about like my kids. I think about in my head one day, my children, there are certain things I was told, you are not going to wear that. You go back and you change right now. And I'm so grateful for that now looking back. And that's something that, that I want to carry forward. I may look like a mean mom one day, but before it's important, what do you want to carry on? What do you want your children to carry on and them to carry on? That is important.
And to care, to actually care, take the time to care. And parents, we believe in the whole homeschooling and everything. Kids that get to go, they go to school and everything, the dress and all of that. A lot of it's a free-for-all, but the thing is, with homeschooling, we got to have them experience wearing different clothes at different times. They'd wear certain ones in the morning and then maybe in the afternoon or this or that. Depends what activity you're doing, also. But just having them at points wear nicer clothes out to dinner or to wedding or to a church or to any kind of events, a birthday party or something. Kids are going to go play. Kids are going to go do this and that. But it depends on the situation. But it's still important. Or you have a dinner at your house. Enjoy it. Dress up. It makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. It does. So what would be, if somebody has something else, but otherwise, what's one takeaway that you each have today?
I feel like there's so many good things from this one. I think that, I guess my main takeaway would be that it does start as your mental attire goes into your outward appearance and how you carry yourself. But also, that once you become aware of the thoughts that you're thinking and how you're clothing yourself, how you're carrying yourself, then you also have to be willing, and this comes up in every video, so I'm just going to use that same format, but start making a change. Say, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be working from home today. I might not see anybody out if I'm not going out or whatever, but I'm going to get dressed in something nicer from 8 a.m. to after lunch. Just set something. Just set some starting point for yourself and then build on that. So you can't just do it once and be like, cool, I got it done. But just build on that and be willing to kind of make those changes and become more aware, and then also be willing to be the example, I feel like. Because we've said, I don't think I'm setting an example. I'm not that important. I don't think that I have that much influence. You do. And I feel like it's kind of a matter of taking responsibility for your example. So maybe that's another takeaway that I didn't intend to say, but taking responsibility for the example you're setting.
Mm-hmm. Well, And I would
say,
say, go ahead.
no,
You
no,
were
you're
ahead.
good.
I would say, like, who is watching me and what are they going to learn by my example? Like, ask yourself that. Who's watching me? What are they going to learn by my example? Whether that be your habits, whether that be what you put on or how you work. We've talked about checking your phone and being on your phone constantly. You know, who's watching me? And what are they going to learn from my example? I would say by asking yourself that every single day, you know, and asking God, you know, help me to be an example that honors you.
First, I want to say, like, take a step back and take some quiet time and just consider, okay, like, what do I do in my everyday life that can set an example? And what example have I been setting? And just like, whether it's how, like, you dress, but also how you think and talk, because speech is a big one. We all know that. But then also, as far as like, I know Caitlin was talking about this earlier, just like, you know, the example you'll be setting for your children. Think in years. So like in years from now, like the people that I am around every day, like how am I affecting them? How am I setting the example? And that's going to multiply to, you know, their family members, their friends, and then their children. And also like when you're out and about and you see someone, in this case, like maybe wearing a nice outfit or something, like compliment them. Don't be afraid to compliment them because that's going to give them confidence. And not about that, like when you wear a nice outfit out, it's not like you should think, well, I hope I get a compliment. You know, it's not for external validation, but just when you compliment someone, it naturally lifts their spirits and then it gives them more confidence to continue doing what they're doing. So, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I would say be that first kernel of popcorn if you don't have anybody else around you, or reach out to us. My one takeaway would be, if you're a parent, make an effort at least once a week for your children to dress this way. Like I said, it doesn't have to be fancy, but enough that it's going to be different from their everyday clothes. And whether you're just going to have dinner at your house or maybe a Friday night supper, have a supper, dinner, Shabbat or something, you know, a fun activity, have family or friends over, and make it a lot of fun. And that would probably be my takeaway. Do it, try it at least once a week if you're not currently, for everybody in the family of all ages, even grandparents, aunts, uncles, all ages. Encourage them and say, hey, we're going to do this, you know. And we have lots of resources that we can guide you to be able to help you out. So reach out on this. And a little plug, we're going to be starting up a 31, or what is it called? Unplug to plug in 31-day challenge. And I'm sure Caitlin will put it in the link, a link down there to be able to, we're working on getting the whole sign up process and all of it set up. But to actually unplug and connect with God, your own mental and physical health, family, the priorities in life. So we appreciate you being here, are thankful for you. No one or family shall do life alone. So please do reach out and connect with us, and take care.